Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 20. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday. Steelers Nation, Dave, the NFL season has officially kicked off, a wild one last night between Dallas and Philadelphia. The Eagles coming out on top. Game tonight in Brazil, and the Steelers, of course, play on Sunday. So football, the rest of the weekend, just the way it should be. So plenty to talk about today, getting ready for this Jets game, this Week 1 contest. Dave, how you doing?
Happy Friday. I'm doing well. Cowboys, Eagles last night. That was entertaining. That game had a little bit of everything. And then obviously tonight have the Chiefs and the Chargers playing in Brazil and college football on tap. Then obviously the Steelers and the Jets early on Sunday. And then we get to end it all, I believe, Sunday night with Ravens versus Bills. So that's kind of exciting to look forward to as well, too. So, what'd you think about the game last night? George Pickens' debut as a Cowboy, spit for spat, and, Spitgate, and everything that happened last night.
Yeah, Pickens was typical George Pickens. Couple of plays, drew a PI, then took an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty himself for clotheslining on a block. So very much the George Pickens experience just now in Dallas. But I thought Dallas played well, had a good game plan. They ran the ball better. Obviously, Jalen Carter getting ejected after the opening kickoff was insane. Brought back Peasy and Pac-Man Jones and perfect vibes. If there's an injury in a weird moment where somebody gets a penalty in a time like that. So thought Dallas had a good game plan. Just those drops by CeeDee Lamb late in the game really were the difference maker.
Yeah, I hearken back to Joey Porter fighting William Green before that game several years ago and getting ejected. And that obviously gave birth to James Harrison making his first official career start. And I think he got his first NFL sack in that game as well, too. Do you remember the quarterback he sacked in that game?
There were so many Browns quarterbacks, it's hard to keep up. I'm trying to think who I could even guess at. I don't have a good guess. Tim Couch, but that's I'm sure that's wrong.
I think it was Jeff Garcia, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah. I mean, one of the many Rolodex of Browns quarterbacks of that time and even still of today.
Yeah, I'll have to double check that. I can't remember. I just posted a clip last night of Joey Porter getting ejected and in that game and all like that. And I did note that it was Harrison's first start because of that and all. But yeah, it was a wild game. We got to see all shades of George Pickens, if you will. And it's going to be interesting to watch that progress throughout the season here. All right, where would you like to go this morning after recapping kind of what happened last night?
It was Jeff Garcia, for those wondering at home, of who Harrison sacked. So Pittsburgh won that day, 24-10. Hope that's the score on Sunday. Have a great show, jam-packed show today. A little bit later, we'll talk to, as we always do for a beat writer on Friday, Zach Rosenblat. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach Blatt. He's a senior writer for The Athletic, covers the Jets, and co-host of the Jets Final Drive for SNY TV. So great conversation with Zach, getting his take on a new look Jets team facing a new look Steelers team and the quarterback swap of 2025. Dave, let's start with the health of these teams, beginning with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The final injury report will come out later today, so we don't have the definitive word on some of these guys, but Derek Harmon has not practiced this week. We do know his status. He's not going to play this week. Mike Tomlin confirmed that Tuesday. Nick Herbig is a name to watch here, limited Wednesday and Thursday. I'm going to guess he's going to get the questionable tag for this game, and we'll see if Pittsburgh makes any roster moves on Saturday that may indicate one way or the other Herbig's status. Cam Hayward practiced full on Wednesday. He did not practice on Thursday. Pittsburgh calling that veteran rest day for him. Of course, with his contract situation still unresolved, there is still an open question to some degree, at least about his intentions for week one. We're both confident he is going to play. Teammates seem to feel the same way. Coaches certainly feel the same way, but nothing official until it's official. So his name, one to watch on the Friday and final injury report.
Yeah, Nick Herbig definitely going to be an interesting one to watch today. And even if he does get cleared to play on Sunday against the Jets, I would imagine they were going to would take the special teams duties off of him. And one thing that I'm interested to see on Saturday, as far as the elevations go, do we see a guy like DeMarvin Leal elevated either way? Obviously, if Nick Herbig does not play, you would probably expect Leal to get elevated. He might just get elevated anyway, just because of the fact that they don't want him doing too terrible. Talking about Nick Herbig doing too much. So, and then the Cam Hayward thing, boy, Steeler fans had their pitchforks and torches out once word started to surface that Cam Hayward wasn't practicing yesterday. I kind of envisioned and even tweeted, and I know you did as well too. Look, not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso like to say. It's not uncommon for him to have a rest day. Now, if we get today and he doesn't practice in Houston, we have a problem maybe.
Right.
But I'm expecting him to practice today, and obviously couple of days to go before the Steelers get on the plane. Actually, one day to go, I guess, before the Steelers get on the plane to go to New York. So be interesting to see if anything gets done with that contract at all, something that we've spent a lot of time and won't spend a lot of time on this show talking about here. But Nick Herbig's obviously the name to watch when it comes to the Friday injury report. And on the Jets side of things are looking kind of rosy for them, outside of them losing Elijah Vera Tucker during the week for the season. What they say, triceps, I think, with him, torn triceps. So he's obviously out for the season. I think either had surgery, he's going to have surgery. That's a big loss for them. Sauce Gardner with a fibula practiced full yesterday, as did Tyrod Taylor. Chukwuma Okorafor limited, obviously a backup swing tackle for them was limited yesterday. So other than Elijah Vera Tucker, they should come out pretty clean on the Friday injury report as well.
And they're planning to replace Vera Tucker. We'll talk to Zach about that in a little bit, but it does seem to be that Joe Tippmann's going to go from center to right guard. Josh Myers will step in at center. Those two guys were competing for the starting center spot, and as fate would have it, both will start in week 1, it seems.
All right.
With Herbig, Matthew Marksy wrote an interesting article this morning, I think some quotes from the Trib about Malik Harrison. He says he can play outside linebacker if called upon. I'm not sure if that's the plan or not, but he played some outside backer in Baltimore and more of those penny fronts, those early downs, not a true pass rusher, but could that be an option if Herbig sits out to give this team some additional depth?
Yeah, I suppose it could. I'd be interested to know what's happening on the other side of the fence over there, at the Steelers facility during practice this week. But and I know that's one of the things that we kind of highlighted when this team signed Malik Harrison is he can play inside out. But I don't know. I suppose on some rundowns you could do that. Look, if you have DeMarvin Leal on the field, it's more for a pass rush type situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's still been an oddball to figure out what is his strength, but he's certainly athletic and more an accomplished pass rusher than Malik Harrison, who's really a strict rundown type of a guy.
And look, here's the thing, you've got a rookie and Jack Sawyer and all like that, who, even though he played some on the right side during the preseason for the Steelers, you would think he's going to get snaps in this game. But if he came into the game, would he mostly be on the left side? And then what does that do, to the other side? Are those downs that Watt's off the field, or do they take the opportunity to move Watt over and take Highsmith off the field because him coming off of a groin injury? Just going to be interesting to see there. I don't think it's I do feel like it's almost a slam dunk. We're going to see DeMarvin Leal elevated. Now it might be more special teams than anything, but as I sit here right now, I'm leaning towards seeing Leal at least elevated and used in some capacity.
Not to get in the weeds, but to get in the weeds, Leal has only done really a lot of kick coverage. Herbig is more multi-phase punt coverage. So I don't know if Leal is going to be a perfect replacement there, or maybe they just try to piecemeal this thing together with Leal picking up some of Herbig's snaps and somebody else picking up the rest on the punt team.
Right. Yeah. We talked about that. Where is Leal's value on special teams?
Just thinking out loud, just again, we into the weeds already, Dave and I, before week one. Could Jon Rhattigan get called up because he's that core multi-phase special teamer who may take all of Herbig's special team snaps instead if they decide that Harrison and Sawyer would be Herbig's replacements at outside linebacker?
Yeah, especially if Herbig's inactive, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Just spitballing different ideas. If you want that special teams one-to-one replacement, then I think Rhattigan's more the guy than DeMarvin Leal.
All right. Good point.
We shall see. All right, Dave, let's go to the coordinators. Arthur Smith and Terrell Austin speaking as they do every Thursday. Arthur Smith, I think, said more interesting things than Terrell Austin did. Arthur Smith saying this year will be different. They will be throwing to the middle of the field, that vacant land that has been unused in many years for Pittsburgh. Although, as I've said in the past, I think it was used a little more than people give it credit for last season. But Arthur Smith declaring the middle of the field will be utilized this season.
Yeah, don't tell me about the labor pains. Just show me the baby. I'm excited to see it. We did get to see a little bit of middle of the field usage, albeit not by Aaron Rodgers during the preseason. You saw a little bit of it during training camp, right, from Aaron?
Yeah, I think it was consistent presence over the middle. I mentioned before, I think that's where Rodgers and Metcalf made their most amount of plays. It was not the vertical ball down the sideline like Russ to Pickens. There were attempts, but not always successful. It was the crossers. It was the slants. And I wrote last week about slants are going to be back in this offense. So I think you're going to see that. Now, in that answer that Smith provided, it was a little more of the broad-based. Each year's different. Each year, the skill sets, we dictate our scheme to what our guys can do. So it wasn't necessarily maybe the complete declaration of we will be throwing the ball to the middle of the field, but I think the general vibe is you're going to see more of that this season.
All right. We know that you have two tight ends, even three, really. I mean, we saw what Darnell Washington could do inside the red zone, going vertical and all like that. I'm interested to see how much this season and really right out of the chute, because a lot of vanilla stuff there during the preseason. We're going to see some things on Sunday against the Jets that we did not necessarily see during the preseason here. A lot of 2-3 tight end personnel groupings. I'm excited to see personally of them being able to stretch the ball vertically along with the to the tight end specifically. That way, kind of running the seam type stuff. We haven't seen hardly any of that with these tight ends over the years, or really the Steelers offense as a whole over the last several years there. And then, like you said, the slants, man, I'm really looking forward to that. And I want to see some of these 12 15-yard digs over the middle as well too. I think Aaron can certainly drill balls into that area of the field. So that's an aspect of this passing game that Aaron Rodgers brings that we have not seen in the Steelers offense in several years now. So I do hope that this comes to fruition. And look, if teams want to go middle of the field close, there should be opportunities at times to hit the red line down the field deep.
Right, so we'll see how it all shakes out come Sunday. From the pass game to the run game, Arthur Smith talking about the running back rotation, mentioning Jaylen Warren, really impressed by him, his contact balance, yards after contact, the things that have made Jaylen Warren, talked about Kenneth Gainwell and his, quote, unique skill set, and then mentioned Caleb Johnson last. So that's how the depth chart is reflected, Warren, Gainwell, and Johnson. What are your expectations on the running back rotation based on just what you've seen in Smith's comments?
Yeah, it's going to take Caleb a little time here at the start of the season to gain the confidence of the coaching staff to get a higher volume of snaps here. So I do expect a lot of Jaylen Warren early. We've talked a lot about how much, we know that Gainwell is going to be utilized in this offense. It's just to what degree and what percentage when it comes to runs versus utilizing him maybe more out space in the passing game. So I think Gainwell, the usage of Gainwell, I think is my biggest question, at least in, let's say, the first 4 games of this season. I do think Caleb Johnson will get it on the field. Not much. I don't know, maybe 5-6 snaps, especially maybe in this opener, maybe a carry or 2, those kind of things there. But I do think it's going to be heavy Warren. And really the only question in my head, I think, is, Gainwell carries versus Gainwell touches in the passing game.
Right. So if you had to guess a stat line for week 1 on Gainwell in terms of rushes versus receptions, what are you trying to map out in your head? I know game flow will dictate a lot, but what's kind of your general expectation?
I would say 2 run carries, 4 or 5 targets.
Okay. So pretty heavily involved in a pass game. They may only throw the ball 30, 35 times in this one.
Yeah.
I'll say 3 carries, 4 receptions. No. Don't want to go that high. 4
Well,
receptions is a little bit
I
heavy.
went targets.
Yeah.
Obviously, you hope he catches all those, but
Sure. I'll say 3 and 3. 3 carries, 3 receptions.
all right.
The other thing from Arthur Smith, and it's been talked about so much, and there's not much to really do with this commentary, but just there was a question about Justin Fields. Of course, Pittsburgh facing him in New York, and Smith really just revering Justin Fields. He says, quote, think Justin did a great job for us. It's probably a better question for Justin than me. That was referring to the development of Justin Fields. But then Smith says, quote, not just a football player, Justin is one of the best people I've ever worked with. Take football aside, very rare, just a great person. So it just goes back to, this is all spilt milk, but the belief that Smith wanted to stick with Justin Fields last year, and if Pittsburgh was going to retain one of their quarterbacks, it was always going to be Justin Fields over Russell Wilson. But of course, neither returned to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and what little that we got to see of him in the game, and obviously got quite a few interviews. I mean, really a fine young man. I mean, kind of guy that you root for when he's not playing your team, right?
Sure.
Obviously has not had a lot of success overall in the NFL, and tough hand in Chicago early on with all the different coordinators and all like that. It's going to have yet another one here. One of the things I think that I wish that we would have seen more in Pittsburgh is utilization of those legs and all. And you do kind of wonder how much of that you're going to see right out of the chute with the Jets. They would probably be smart, especially with the loss of their starting right guard, and even had they not lost him. And I think you guys did a great job in the film preview of this game, and what little Jets tape with Justin Fields there is to work with. That we're going to see some RPOs. We're going to see some of the read options and stuff like that. And I imagine he's going to have, I don't know, 5, 6 design maybe runs in this game, and probably 2 or 3 scrambles on top of it. And I think a key element to this game will be how the Steelers handle Justin Fields and his legs, particularly there. But back to the original point here, just seemed to be a great kid overall, and unfortunately things did not work out where they could re-sign him. Justin Fields said earlier in the week he did consider signing back with the Steelers, and had the guaranteed money probably been the same, it would have been interesting to see his decision. Although I think seem to think that just kind of wanted a fresh start, and overall, and he said that he wanted to be part of building the culture over there with the Jets and a new staff and all like that. So anyway, going to be a test right out of the chute, I think, for the Steelers when it comes to the legs.
Sticking with Fields, looking at the on-field matchup a little bit more, defensive coordinator Terrell Austin talked about, is there an advantage facing the quarterback that you had in the building last year? And Austin, in a sense, downplayed it because there's the unknown about how the Jets will use him, which is certainly true. But Austin talked about, they know, okay, there's no question about what can this guy do? What's his arm strength, his speed? And I think it's also important for just the speed of this guy too, of, okay, the Steelers defense knows how fast he is. It's not going to be kind of new and having to deal with that in the stadium for the first time. So I know they never got to hit Justin Fields last year in training camp or practice, but I do think Pittsburgh, although slight, has an advantage over the Jets in terms of facing the former quarterback, because that coaching staff in Pittsburgh's the same. They know how Fields thinks, how they coached him up last year. They developed him, and with the Jets, it's a new regime over there. There's very little holdover. I think one positional coach returned, and that was the wide receivers coach. So I think Pittsburgh does have a slight advantage in the quarterback-facing former team debate.
And while Justin Fields will never be compared 1-to-1 to Lamar Jackson, you do have a mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson that you've had to prepare for several times. And I imagine Justin Fields played a part in maybe some of that preparation, right? As far as scout team looks and all like that. So at least you look, you're going to see some mesh charge stuff. You're going to see stuff probably designed to try to collapse the pocket slowly and try to have rush lane integrity and all like that. So I do think this is a bit of an advantage for the Steelers, not only because they had Justin Fields at practice and that defensive unit, like you said, get used to the speed and all the kind of the things that he can do, but not only that, they've had to prepare for similar situations with Lamar Jackson the last several years.
Hopefully this outing goes better than the last game against Lamar, where Baltimore ran all over Pittsburgh, but they've generally had success against Lamar relative to other teams, and so that's a point well taken. Just to reiterate on Cam Hayward, Terrell Austin was asked about, do you anticipate Hayward playing? Austin says, quote, absolutely, he's been practicing, so I anticipate him playing. That was before the DNP rest on the Thursday report, but I think Austin, like Mike Tomlin, still confident that he is going to play in this game. And then in terms of replacing the one defensive lineman we know will not play in this game, rookie Derek Harmon, Austin mentioning Isaiah Loudermilk and Y.A. Black as the first two names that came to mind. So I think some of the beat writers have hinted that Loudermilk is probably going to get the start at left defensive end in Pittsburgh's base 3-4.
Yeah, boy, and obviously when you got a guy like Y.A. Black, had the preseason that he had, and just the more that you get to know this guy, had a good media session yesterday in the locker room. You wouldn't know, and I think maybe I think Ross maybe brought this up. I can't remember for sure. I mean, you wouldn't know that this guy was a rookie based on that interview alone that he gave yesterday. There seems very at ease. He talked about he knows why he was brought in, and obviously that starts up front with getting that hand in the dirt and stopping the run and all like that. I do think Loudermilk gets the start potentially, but it will be interesting to see the snap division of labor distribution, if you will, as the game goes on, because you got a bigger body, and specifically over there on that right side of that Jets defense over there with Tippmann having to play guard in this one. You got a rookie right tackle in this one. So look, you've got other guys on that defensive line that's going to be used in this rotation as well too. But I think we talk about kind of one of my thoughts about one of the mysteries on the Steelers offensive side of football is the usage of Kenneth Gainwell. I am intrigued about how the usage of Y.A. Black is going to be in this game on the defensive line.
Yeah, he's going to definitely get some work. He's earned it, and they need him. So he's going to rotate in nickel and in base for sure. We'll see how much that is needed in this game, and how many tight ends and how many big people personnel the Jets put out there. But generally, as Zach Rosenblat talks about, the Jets want to run the ball. There's a personality, big picture, similar. Want to play physical, want to use tight ends, want to take the air out of the football. And so it's going to be a mirrored game plan, I think, the Steelers offense and the Jets offense in this one. So yeah, hopefully the depth that Pittsburgh has collected and guys like Black are able to shine through. And you're right, Black seems comfortable, and it's probably partially his personality. But I think whenever you're coming from a system that's similar at Iowa to Pittsburgh, there's that extra level of comfort that gives you confidence in I've been doing and running this scheme for a long time. I can do it. Of course, he had preseason success. So, that's why those evaluations are so important, to make that transition when you can as seamless as possible. Take guys who had similar college systems to the schemes that you run now, Harmon at Oregon, Black at Iowa, Caleb Johnson even at Iowa, to really help that transition and accelerate that learning curve from college to NFL.
Absolutely. And look, you talk about one of the big things coming out of last season was the ability to stop the run. Now, while I have felt better about this since get to see a little bit of these rookies in Harmon and Black, but obviously Harmon's not going to play in this game. I have felt a little bit better overall, but the proof is still going to be in the pudding here. And once again, you've got a Jets team that's going to come out, probably going to try to establish the run and really test, hey, how how well did you fix that run defense? And obviously, we have not seen any Cam Hayward during the preseason, but we all expect, or at least you and I and his teammates and coaching staff expect him to play, and you expect Cameron Hayward to come out and shoot just fine. But guys that we still will learn a little bit about as the season goes on. Aquale, Otomewo, those when those guys get on the field might be some key snaps to analyze after this game is over.
Right, as Mike Tomlin talked about Tuesday, they're going to rotate these guys a lot, especially in the early going. Whenever you're getting your legs under you in week one, you're chasing Justin Fields. It's hotter weather outside, so you're going to have to lean on not just Milk and Y.A. Black. It's going to be every guy who's dressed is going to play some level of meaningful snaps in this game.
Do you think Logan Lee actually gets in, A, is active for this game, and B, if he is, will he see the field on defense?
I know you have the weekly inactive prediction post. I really have not gone through the Rolodex of names, and obviously if they elevate people, that'll dictate and impact how many inactives they have. So I couldn't tell you if he's going to dress right now. I just hadn't done the math, but I think if he does dress, he will play more than 1 or 2 snaps.
All right, let's see. We know Skyler's going to be the third quarterback. We know Derek Harmon is going to be inactive for this one. We think 2 offensive linemen might be inactive, potentially an Andres Pete and Sharping would be the other one. So I think elevations will, then there's the questionable aspect of Herbig, and then whether or not they do the elevations or not. Expecting James Pierre to potentially be elevated for this one.
Right. So we'll find that information out by 4 p.m. tomorrow when elevations are due, and actives will, of course, come in 11:30 Eastern time on Sunday. Last thing from Terrell Austin, we've not talked about him much this year and all this new defensive pieces and just a new look roster. Patrick Queen, his second year, and what a big second year it is for Patrick Queen with the Steelers and being that hub of communication, still the every down linebacker. And Terrell Austin saying he believes he's a lot more comfortable, Queen is, this year compared to a season ago. Now that you're integrated into the system, you know your teammates, you know the system, and so Queen's got to be able to walk and chew gum. He's got to be able to get the calls in and still play well individually. The book has always been he struggled to do both. Was the case in Baltimore. I think was the case last year in Pittsburgh. Got to change in 2025.
Yeah, kind of an underlying X factor there, if you will. Overall, look, I mean, a lot of eyes are going to be on what Jalen Ramsey brings to this defense. I think another component, obviously, with these young guys coming in on a defensive line and fixing that the run situation there. But then we're going to see a lot of Peyton Wilson, we think, as the season goes on. He had an impressive rookie season. But when you look 1-for-1 at Patrick Queen's first year in Pittsburgh in 2024, it felt like it obviously could have been better. And you want to see a guy come out and shoot quickly against the Jets. This is a player that you think could potentially have 140, 150 tackles during the season, and I don't know, 12, 10, 8, 9, 10, 12 tackles for loss, a couple of sacks because of his ability to go forward on some of these blitz type situations as well too. So yeah, it probably isn't the main X factor when you look at the Steelers defense overall, but it's something that certainly cannot just be glossed over as an expectation that just because this is his second year in the system that we can automatically expect a big jump. He's going to have to show it on the field.
Agreed, 100%, Dave. Anything else from the coordinators, Smith and Austin, that stuck out to you?
No, not overall.
All right, so let's do this, Dave. We'll take a pause here in a second. We'll come back with Zach Rosenblat, a senior writer for The Athletic who covers the Jets. Does a great job doing so. Also, the co-host of the Jets Final Drive podcast on SNY TV. Be sure to follow Zach on Twitter. That's at Zach Blatt. That's ZackBlatt. Let's take a pause and come back with Zach.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday, week 1 of the 2025 NFL season, with the Pittsburgh Steelers getting ready to take on the New York Jets on the road on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And as we like to do every Friday during the regular season, preview the opposition. And with it being the Jets this week, we are pleased to have back on the show with us Zach Rosenblat. That's a name that should be familiar to you because he was on the show last year ahead of the Steelers playing the New York Jets. Zach is the senior writer over at The Athletic covering the New York Jets and the NFL. He co-hosts the Flight Plan podcast as well and co-host of the Jets Final Drive on SNY TV. He's also a University of Arizona alum. So with that, happy Friday, Zach. Welcome back to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you guys. Lots changed for both these teams in the last year. So
absolutely. Glad to have you. Obviously, the big storyline ahead of this one is the two quarterbacks in Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers, both playing their former teams, something that I believe is a first time that has happened in an NFL season. So a baked-in storyline right off the bat there. But I wanted to kind of start first with Aaron Rodgers here. You obviously covered him the last couple of seasons with the Jets. There was a narrative that was being fed to Steelers fans after they signed him, and then obviously during that long courtship about Aaron, and is he difficult to deal with, and is he potentially cancerous, and my way or the highway type of guy. So far on RN and watching all of the offseason press conferences and kind of what he does. Look, he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still kind of direct and to the point and a little bit of abrasive at times and all. What have you seen so far this offseason, out of your eyes when reading and seeing the interviews with Aaron Rodgers? Is this the same Aaron Rodgers? Was the narrative wrong? What were kind of your dealings with Aaron Rodgers?
It's interesting. I think he's going into a situation as Pittsburgh where he knows the culture of winning and the culture that he wants to be a part of is already established. Where he came to the Jets and he felt like he had to establish the culture. So there is a difference there in terms of like how he's going to attack it when he comes to the organization. And in terms of like the reputation, like on one hand, I think it's overblown, like the idea that he's a bad teammate and stuff like that. I think his teammates, for the most part, enjoyed his company and liked him. I think he's a guy that's, if you're just talking to him one-on-one or if you're just hanging out with him or joking around, like he's very easy to talk to. He's someone who cares. He wants to win. Like that's undeniable, all that stuff. I think the part that like his teammates got tired of was just like all the noise that kind of came with him going to Pat McAfee every week, him, calling out Mike Williams when he did, that became a whole big thing. And even the year before when he was hurt, like it was like after he got hurt, it was like every week everybody was getting asked constantly about Aaron's comeback, and it was not about like what they were doing. And so I think there are guys that weren't happy that he was gone, like a few of them, but I think broadly that they all kind of appreciate how it's a little bit quieter now with Justin Fields. They might not like it if they're losing again, and I don't know what the vibe will be, but I think it's both overblown and kind of fair at the same time because he wanted things a certain way here. The Jets did everything in their power to give him everything he wanted. They hired his friend as OC. They signed like 5 or 6 of his guys. All of them kind of did not work out. And when he started to not get the things that he wanted, he let everybody know about it. And he, took shots at the owner and in press conferences and the owner's son, which I know rubbed people the wrong way. So I think it just ultimately was a marriage that needed to head for a divorce, even though I think Aaron would admit, or maybe he wouldn't now, but that he wanted to come back initially, and Aaron Glenn did not want him to come back. So,
all right, moving forward, or actually looking back, I was one of those people last year thought, okay, anytime the Jets are going to get this thing rolling, especially with Aaron Rodgers and all the guys that some of his guys that he had in there on offense, and but it never did. Every week I kept saying, this is the week that the Jets are going to get going there. I had them in the playoffs. I imagine you maybe did as well. Don't know for sure, but what essentially went wrong with Aaron Rodgers and that offense last year in New York?
Yeah, it was it was a situation where Aaron wanted to run the offense that he likes, which was kind of very simple and reliant on him making the decisions at the line of scrimmage. And I don't know that he really had the ability to be the Aaron Rodgers of old. Like, he wasn't really taking shots downfield. He wasn't really getting out of the pocket and making plays out of the pocket as much. And he really struggled when there was blitzes. But, there's also a combination of the offensive line was very inconsistent. The running game was non existent, partially due to Rodgers calling out of runs a lot. They ran the ball the least amount out of anybody in the NFL last year. The receivers outside of Garrett Wilson before Devontae got there were pretty bad. Like, they were dropping a lot of passes. So it wasn't a perfect environment around him, but ultimately it just it just wasn't a good fit. Like, at this stage of his career, like, he needed like a perfect supporting cast around him for it to work. And I don't think that was a supporting cast that was going to work with a 40-year-old quarterback who couldn't really move anymore.
Take it to the 2025 Jets, new regime, Aaron Glenn, the hire. What made him the right guy for New York? And I know that regular season action is just kicking off. What's been the biggest change that's Glenn has made so far in his tenure with New York?
I'll say the biggest change was this was the most physical training camp they've had since at least Rex Ryan, if not longer. Like, they were tackling in camp, which they hadn't done here in a while. It was more physical. And yeah, he's the kind of coach this organization needed. He's a disciplinarian. He's a guy who's going to hold everybody accountable. He's all about culture. And he just did this in Detroit. Like, Dan Campbell would tell you, and I wrote about this earlier this week because I talked to Dan, like, the Lions aren't who they are now if not for Aaron Glenn and the work those two put in 2021 when they were losing almost every game. Like, that was the day they were establishing the culture. And so he's coming into a situation now that's somewhat similar. They have some talent, but this is a rebuild. This is a team that needs to have his culture established. They, last year was not a country club culture, but it was almost that way where guys were kind of just doing what they wanted, especially the big names, the veterans. He got rid of most of the older players. They only have like 3 or 4 guys that are even 30 years old on this roster. So they got younger, they changed the staff, they changed the GM, and they're just trying to change the image of this team. And that's kind of been his whole thing.
On that similar thought, what made this team go seemingly all in on Justin Fields, taking him from Pittsburgh to New York? Feels like he's the guy. There was no talk about adding competition. I know Tyrod's the backup there. So what made Glenn? I know they have experience from their days in the NFC North together, but what made Fields the guy for New York?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a combo of that. Like, Fields actually played pretty well against the Lions over the years when he was with Chicago. I think Aaron Glenn's someone who wants a mobile quarterback because he wants to run a very run-heavy offense. And Fields, he had a quote where he's not a celebrity quarterback, which is like a Bill Parcells-ism. But Aaron Rodgers obviously is that, whereas Justin Fields, I just think, like, being in the locker room, like yesterday I'm in the locker room and Justin Fields is kind of alone in the corner of his locker looking at his phone. Whereas, like, Aaron Rodgers is kind of the center of the universe in every room he walks into. And he's a celebrity, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and everybody knows who he is. So you don't blame him. But that's more the vibe Glenn was looking for. His whole thing this offseason was about moving in silence. And I think Justin Fields, as you guys probably saw last year when he was starting, like, he's not someone who's going to say much. He's not going to cause the scene. He's just going to try and do his job and then go home at the end of the day.
Obviously, one of the other storylines, unfortunate for the Jets this week, is the loss of Vera Tucker at right guard to a season-ending injury. That's a huge blow for that offensive line, and especially when you have a rookie right tackle in Mimbo starting next to him. I would imagine, I think you tweeted this out right after that news broke there. I think you're expecting Joe Tippmann to fill in at right guard over there, and I guess Josh Myers to play center. How big of a loss is that Vera Tucker injury, and how do you see Joe Tippmann at right guard there? I think he's got a limited amount of guard experience overall in the NFL, and especially playing alongside a rookie in Mimbo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big loss because in my mind, AVT was their best offensive lineman this summer. He was headed towards a payday. He's going to be a free agent this offseason, and he just was looking really good, especially in the run game. And what this does is, while I think Tippmann can be a solid player, this makes you worse, I think, at right guard and center. And to your point, like, now you have a guy with limited experience at guard. He did play some right guard as a rookie, like 150 snaps or 200 snaps or something like that. It was up and down. He was a rookie. Played some left guard this summer. So he is versatile, but he's just not AVT. He's not as much of a grinder in the run game. And so I have concerns about it, especially I think that right side of that line looks kind of weak now, whereas you went into this offseason feeling really good about the whole of the offensive line. So now I think Josh Myers, Joe Tippmann, Membo, all are questions to varying degrees. The left side of the line looks good, but the offensive line looked like a strength a few days ago, and now it feels like more of a question mark, which is unfortunate because they were really building everything around that O line.
I still imagine that they're going to run the football and run the football a lot. Got some good backs in Breece Hall and Braylon Allen over there, and we all know about the mobility of Justin Fields. Unfortunately, as Steeler fans, we didn't get to see really enough of it last year. But Mike Tomlin said earlier in the week he expects a lot of design runs with Justin Fields to utilize his legs. I know there was limited preseason time with Justin Fields on the field there, and obviously there's going to be a lot of vanilla stuff during the preseason, not to jump out on the tape on overall. But is that what you're kind of expecting in this? Is it more of a dedicated ground game, some read options, some RPO type stuff, and then when Justin Fields does pass Zach, are you expecting a quick game? I think one of the biggest things with Justin Fields is a sack percentage for him when he holds on to the football. And also, I guess the other thing is when he does get the ball out quick, just really a short air yard distance with him, not really pushing the football down the field. So your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, with the air yards thing, like that was a big topic of conversation as training camp ended, especially because in the two preseason games he played in, I think he averaged 3.9 air yards per attempt. They were not throwing the ball downfield, and I think the idea is I think this staff is trying to remove all of the processing that's maybe been an issue for Fields, where they just kind of it's set where he has to go, and if it's not there, the idea is they want him to take what the defense gives him, and so he's like, if I have to only throw 8-yard passes all day, that's what I'll do. He wasn't even throwing it 8 yards, but that's the idea. Like we don't want to make him take risks. We don't want him to try and fit it in tight windows. We want him to just do what's available to him. And the flip side of that is the running game, what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, that's going to be the root of this offense. Like they want to run the ball as much as possible. I have questions about how you're going to do when you're trailing or it's third and long. Like how are you going to be able to rely on Justin Fields to go and get the yards that you need? But this running game, it looks very effective to me. I mean, we'll see how it looks without ABT, but the run blockings look good. They have a really talented running back trio with Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis. They have a fullback in Andrew Beck. They have tight ends they like. The blocking is a little more suspect there, but I feel good about the running game. I don't feel great about the passing game is the broad strokes evaluation.
This game's going to feel like 1940, Zach. Just running the ball,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and the Jets the whole way through, the same philosophy. Just another question. Aaron Glenn putting together this coaching staff that has a Detroit flair to it, obviously, but Steve Wilks being the DC, what a quality hire that is. Who is going to be calling the plays? Is it Aaron Glenn? Is it Wilks? How are they handling those responsibilities?
Yeah, Wilks will be calling the plays, but I mean, Glenn will be overseeing it, and I'm sure he'll be able to, put his stamp on it. I think it's probably more Aaron Glenn's defense than Steve Wilks' defense broadly, but this is going to be an aggressive defense. They're going to blitz a lot. There's going to be man coverage. It's going to be different than what they've had the last couple of years, but Wilks is the one ultimately running the show. Aaron Glenn really has split his time between all the units. Like you watch him in practice, he's bouncing around. He's not just a defensive coach. And if you asked him or called him that, he would let you know that he's not just a defensive coach.
Understood. You mentioned the secondary. Some changes there. DJ Reed goes to the Lions. Brendan Eccles is now in Pittsburgh. You bring in Brandon Stevens, Michael Carter in the slot. I know Sauce Gardner. Will he shadow more this year? It feels like he's going to be on DK a lot in this game. And just how are they replacing some of those lost pieces in the secondary?
Yeah, I think Sauce is going to travel more this year. That's the vibe I get. We'll see if that actually happens on Sunday. I do think he's going to follow DK Metcalf, though, is my vibe. Brandon Stevens is the guy that they brought in that in Baltimore, if you looked at the number, fans were not happy with it because if you look at the numbers, he gave up the second most passing yards out of any corner last year. But the problem with him has never been being in the right place or coverage. It's not turning his head around, and so he does not make plays on the balls historically. But he looked really, really good in camp, and if they can fix that, that looks like a really good corner. And at safety, they have Andre Sisco. They signed from the Jaguars. He's coming off a bad year. And Tony Adams, the other starter, he was here last year. I have concerns about that group, but the corners I feel really good about, and that feels like the strongest group on that defense.
My last question for you, Zach, and let Dave finish things out. What are expectations for the Jets this year? Their last playoff game was against the Steelers in their last Super Bowl run, so it's been a long time for this team. You mentioned rebuilding. I think people understand that, but there's probably a level of angst for this team to start moving in the right direction and in a relative hurry. So what is a successful season for the Jets this year?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge because on one hand, they need to take their time and build this out the right way, but this fan base is tired of rebuilds. As you mentioned, they haven't been to the playoffs since 2010 or whatever it is. So it's the longest drought in all four sports. So, like a successful season should be, they end the season better than when they started it. They're competitive. They're not shooting themselves in the foot in the way they did last year. They win 7 or 8 games, get out of the season feeling good going into next year. But I don't know if that's going to be enough for either the owner or the fan base. So it's going to be interesting. But I don't think their ceiling is particularly high. I think their floor could be kind of low depending on how Fields plays. So, but I'm of the mind that like if they aren't as much of a disaster as last year, that's a great start, frankly.
Did you have a record prediction? Did you make one, or are you?
Yeah. I've said 7-10 has been my prediction.
Okay. Gotcha. Dave, go ahead.
When you look at the front four with this defense, it's a strong group. Will McDonald, somebody I think even Mike Tomlin went and talked to pre-draft process. He has a lot of respect for him. You got Jermaine Johnson on the other side, and Quinnen Williams. He needs no introduction to NFL fans, and Harrison Phillips even from his time I believe in Minnesota. Strong. They should be strong up front with those front four. Obviously have Sauce Gardner's a big name, and like you, I expect him to follow DK Metcalf around a lot in this game, if not all game and all. But when you look at what the Steelers are probably going to want to do on offense with their additions, and we didn't get to see a lot of this during the preseason. They ran a lot of 11 personnel, and obviously Jonnu Smith did not play. We're going to see a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets for the Steelers on offense and try to utilize that in the passing game. Is that the key to beating this defense? Is Aaron Rodgers getting the ball to his tight ends in this game against some of those linebackers and safeties? How do you see the Jets handling that portion of the Steelers passing game?
Yeah, I'd say historically the Jets haven't performed great against tight ends or running backs in coverage. So I think they're going to be aggressive and try to make Aaron Rodgers get out of the pocket. Last year, Aaron Rodgers was one of the worst quarterbacks against the blitz. And so I think they're going to blitz a lot. But, Aaron Rodgers is smart enough that he's going to know they're going to do that. So I think there's going to be a lot of quick hitters, him getting rid of the ball quickly. And, yeah, I think the tight ends are going to be a big part of that. The Jets, 2 linebackers, Jamie and Sherwood and Quincy Williams, are quite good. And I think Sherwood in particular is pretty good in coverage, actually. He's gotten better and better as the years have gone on. So that is going to be an interesting part of this matchup, and it's something I definitely have my eye on. I'd also say, like, Will McDonald, as you mentioned, going against that offensive line and Jermaine Johnson and Broderick Jones. Like, I think that's going to be a key thing here because the Jets, on paper, have the advantage there, and they need to take advantage of it.
When you have the quarterback switching sides like this, and obviously playing, knowing a lot about the support personnel on either team, does Aaron Rodgers have the advantage over Justin Fields just because of his longevity and his experience and knowledge overall of a lot of these players? Is it a huge gap and an advantage for Aaron Rodgers, or is it kind of close because of Justin Fields actually coming over and knowing a lot about what the Steelers defense?
Aaron, I don't know if there's a huge advantage in either direction. Aaron would have the advantage just purely because he's one of the best football minds that's ever played in the NFL. And so he's going to be able to understand like the tendencies of the guys he used to go against in practice. But this is a different defense. Justin Fields, I think he's not going to be thinking like that. I think he's more focused on just doing his job and running the game plan and focusing on that, because I think when he tries to get too far outside of himself is when he struggles. So I don't think necessarily either has a huge advantage in that department, but Rodgers does purely because of, his IQ, his football IQ and all that. But physically, he's not the same player as Justin Fields. So it's kind of balances out, I think.
As an outsider who doesn't cover the Steelers on a daily basis, you obviously still know enough about them. Obviously, Mike Tomlin's been around for a long time as well, too. The whole no losing season aspect. Even so, with all the additions that the Steelers have made, changes with this team this year, The win total, I think, still sitting at 8.5 with this team. Do you view this as a team that should win more than 8.5? Should that be a slam dunk? And if not, why do you as an outsider view most people thinking that this is a team that might only just win 9 games, or actually for the first time under Mike Tomlin have a losing season?
Yeah, I kind of lean more towards that than saying they're a team that's going to be like a contender or anything like that, because I'm skeptical, frankly, that the Aaron Rodgers thing is going to work. Like I think people have been focusing a lot on his season stats with the Jets last year, which were kind of juiced because they threw the ball as much as anybody in the NFL, and he really juiced them. And at the end of the season, when he was going against some bad defenses, I just don't think he's the same player anymore. He cannot get out of the pocket, and I have questions about the Steelers tackles. Their defense is very good, which should carry them. But, Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith are two styles of offense that don't really mesh. So I'm curious to see how that looks. They certainly have the ability to be a scary team because they are the Steelers, they are Tomlin, and that defense is really, really good. But I don't know. I don't think DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers makes a lot of sense as a marriage in terms of where Rodgers is at in his career and how he plays. So I'm skeptical personally, but I can see a path to them winning 10 games and making the playoffs, and then once you're in the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen.
Alex, you got anything else before I ask Zach for his prediction of this game?
No, let's hear the prediction.
All right, what you got for us, Zach, as far as the score prediction for this game, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very low scoring one. I think what I predicted on my podcast yesterday was Jets winning like 10-9. I don't feel necessarily great about picking the Jets. I think it could really go either way. My gut says the Steelers will win it, but I don't know. I think it's going to be, if the Jets can get out ahead early, they have the ability to run the clock and kind of win this game. But I think it's going to be an ugly one that's pretty low scoring, I would say.
All right. You can follow Zach on Twitter/X at Zach Blatt. That's ZACKBLATT. You can read his coverage over at The Athletic of the Jets, and also listen to the Flight Plan podcast and co-host. He's also the co-host of the Jets Final Drive. What do you have up for Steeler fans to read about the opposition over on The Athletic these next couple of days?
Yeah, so I had a story that came out earlier this week. I flew to Detroit this summer and got to talk to Dan Campbell and a lot of guys on the Lions staff and the roster about Aaron Glenn, and just kind of wrote the story about how he helped establish that culture over there and how he's bringing it to New York. And so that was a big story this week. And if anyone wants to read it, it's at The Athletic on the Jets page.
All right, Zach, we appreciate 2 years in a row. Don't know if we'll do this again or later on, maybe even this season in the playoffs. We'll have to see. But we certainly do appreciate your time. You're a great guest, and we look forward to having you on a future episode of the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. It was great talking to you.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Our special thanks to Zach Rosenblat, great senior writer over there at The Athletic, covers the Jets. Follow him on Twitter at Zach Blatt. So great information getting us ready for week 1, Dave.
Yeah, I think last year was the first time that we had him on the show. He did a fantastic job. And with the Steelers back-to-back years playing the Jets, it only made sense to bring him back. And he did not disappoint once again. So interesting to hear his score prediction. Or I kind of envisioned him, especially after he spouted off what he thought the record would be. I kind of thought he'd pick the Steelers in this one, but he doesn't sound overly confident. But could be week 1 glasses, rose-colored glasses, if you will. But I was a bit surprised to hear him pick the Jets in this game. But great guest, and I'm sure at some point down the road we'll have him back on this show again to preview another Jets game.
I think he's like the second guy to predict that real ultra low scoring game. I think Fittipaldo had said the same, although he picked the Steelers. I just think back to that. What year was that? The Falcons game week 1, the Mendenhall game winning touchdown in overtime was 15-9. That's the vibe I get every time somebody says 10-9 or 13-9. That's some of the prediction I've seen for this game.
All right, going to be a lot of running in this one for sure.
All right, Dave, let's preview this one. Steelers-Jets Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. It's a lot of new and some old on both sides here. So new coaching staff for the Jets, new quarterback, and all the changes for the Steelers roster. Looking at this Jets team, Justin Fields will begin with the New York offense. So it's Fields, defecting from Pittsburgh to East Rutherford. What are your thoughts on him and this New York Jets offense?
Yeah, I think the thing that sticks out the most, and the bad thing about week one, especially when you got guys switching teams and coaching staffs and all like that, you got a lot of guesswork involved. And Justin Fields did not play a lot of preseason time, but there was a little tape, and then you get into the how vanilla were they and all like that. But I think there's just some elements that just make sense when it comes to this Jets offense right out of shoot here, and especially with the loss of Vera Tucker to injury. And Mike Tomlin, I think, said it best a couple of days ago with his press conference. You know, you expect this team to come out and their identity to run the football, especially early on in the season, especially early on in games here as well, too. I think their run game, you know, it's not like they do a lot of different things, you know, with the run game that other teams don't do. But I think you're going to see, you know, RPO aspect of it. I think you're going to obviously see some inside zone runs, some stuff off guard and off tackle. Look, one of the things that stuck out when watching a little bit of tape last year with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets is how good they were able to fit up some runs on the right side of that offensive line. Now, obviously, you know, no Vera Tucker over there. They're tight ends are kind of suspect as well. So, and I don't know if my game plan would be to run at TJ Watt a lot either, but I do expect them to come out and try to run the football as best as they can. I imagine there's going to be some design runs. I think you're going to see some zone reads in there just to kind of set the stage for some stuff. If I'm the Jets coaching staff in this, I do try to lean on Justin Fields' legs a little bit in this one, because look, I think the worst thing that the Jets can do in this game offensively is get in third and long situations where Justin Fields has to hold the football and Justin Fields has to push the football down the field. They want to stay in a lot of third and manageable or no third downs at all. I suspect the passing game will be and you look at that T-shirt Y.A. Black was wearing, don't get beat to the flat. I expect they're going to try to use these backs in the passing game. I think they're going to try a lot of the quick out kind of stuff. I think they want the Steelers potentially to maybe play a lot of zone because of the fear of Justin Fields' legs. And you know, I think they're going to try to dink and dunk a lot as well too. But I just can't help but get back to thinking that one of the keys to this game for the Steelers overall is just don't let Justin Fields kill you with his legs. But you did have an interesting stat, though, I think, about Justin Fields in 60 yards or more in a game.
Yeah, it's interesting if you look at it, and some of this could be causation, not necessarily correlation. I don't have the exact stat. Let me try to find it in my report. Whenever Fields has rushed for more than 60 yards in a game, and obviously he can utilize his legs and lean on that well. We saw that last year in Pittsburgh in his 6 starts. Let me just pull that up because I want to make sure I get the stat right. He is 2-11 in his career when he rushes for 60 or more yards in a game. Now, of course, if you're trailing late and you're throwing the ball late and you're just naturally taking off a couple times, I know that could be a factor in that. And he played on some bad Chicago teams where it didn't seem like, you know, they just lost games no matter what Fields' day was. But yeah, you would think that he'd have more success when rushing for a bunch of yards, but the numbers say that's not the case.
What is the other stat with Fields and when the opposition scores more than
21 points, I believe, is the number. He is not. I think the stat is he's never won a game when the opposition has scored more than 21 points. I believe that's the number.
All right. I'm trying to look that up on the fly here, and I'm having problems doing so, but I don't think he's won a game, right?
I think it was a Warren Sharp tweet. Let me try to figure out if we can cobble this together here. This is from 2 months ago. Let me pull up his Twitter. Justin Fields has led his teams to an 0-22 record when opponents score at least 21 points. Fields is the only quarterback winless the last 4 years with at least 10 starts made, and that was from this June. So it's current to heading into 2025. So scored 21, and that's apparently the magic formula. Now, I don't know what the NFL average is for that, but I assume it's not 0-22.
Right. Once again, what my biggest fear is the 20, 40, 60, and even 80 aspect of Justin Fields with his leg. Now, look, he can sling it, right? I mean, but I would imagine that the Steelers, and it'll be interesting to know Mika and all like that. But one of the interesting elements of the Steelers defense as we get deeper into previewing this game is the excitement that we have with how unstaticky, is that a word?
Sure, why not? It's in Dave's dictionary, everything's a word.
Right. Unstaticky. This defense looks, pre-snap rotations and how Jalen Ramsey fits in all this, and the moving around of Jalen Ramsey and how we expect probably now not necessarily against Justin Fields because once again you play a lot of man against him, and if you have those defensive backs and all have their back turned to him, if you don't have the rush lane integrity, that thing could split open, and Justin Fields does have the ability. Look, I mean, we saw Jalen Hurts last night and his ability to use those legs, especially in when defenders are playing one-on-one situations in coverage there. That is one of the biggest elements of this game, I think, when it comes to, and look, I mean, Garrett Wilson's obviously a very good wide receiver, but I would expect, going to be interesting to see how much Jalen actually follows him around. I'm definitely not going to let that guy beat me through the air, but you can't go into every game saying, I'm not going to let this happen, I'm not going to let this happen, and I'm not going to let this happen, because you only have so many ways you can dedicate to trying to shut down certain elements of the game. But you stop the run first with the regular running game, and then you're obviously concerned about Justin Fields and kind of the design runs and off script aspect of his game, and then you just can't let him sling the ball down the field to Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, my two overall big picture thoughts, and it can be so hard facing this rookie coach and rookie offensive coordinator from Detroit, who was the pass game coordinator last year, but first time in that true dedicated OC role. But I kind of get, and it's funny you mentioned that with the don't get beat to the flat shirt, the YA Black War. This kind of has a Colts Chiefs feel to this offense. A lot of quick game, RPO game, the run element, especially looking at the Colts preparing for Richardson last year. That's kind of the vibe of this offense that New York is giving. Is they're going to be varied, going to be quick game, get the ball out rhythmically and do some damage after the catch and stress the field, horizontally more so than vertically. And the other thought I have is the Jets want to slow down the Steelers defense, make those guys be slow and careful with their eyes, with misdirection. With a varied run scheme, they ran everything. They ran duo, inside zone, some creative split zone concepts, some power and gap schemes as well. They're going to run some what might look like read option, but I don't think they actually had a read defender where there was not an unblocked edge player for Fields to read, but it just had that mesh point action to maybe slow those guys down just a tick to respect the threat of Fields rushing. Talk about the pass game. Will Pittsburgh's pass rush lose some of its teeth and muster because you're focusing on rush lane integrity and containing Fields, not over pursuing and not, giving him an escape lane. So will the Steelers defense still be able to play fast? That is the question. If they can, they're going to win. If the Jets can effectively slow them down, New York's going to have their success.
If you're the Jets, even though you've got these different elements added into the Steelers defense and potentially being a little bit more unstaticky, if you will, you do look back at the Chiefs game, I think, and I think you made a great point there. And one of the negative bugaboos for Justin Fields for his career was he gets himself in trouble the longer he holds on to the football, and I think the element of them trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly, even if it's out, wide receiver script, if they get numbers to one side or the other side there, I think you have the potential of seeing a lot of quick screens, tunnel, smoke, those kind of things there, just to try to win, get the ball out of Fields' hands quickly into the hands of the playmakers, and then hope to get the yards after the catch in this one. So I do expect that element of the Jets passing game to be a quick game.
Yeah, and Aaron Glenn's going to know how Pittsburgh's defense wants to be physical and press and use their strength at cornerback at Ramsey and Slay and Porter. These are big, physical, long corners. And so you saw on tape throughout the preseason stacks and bunches, 2-man stacks, 3-man bunches to help force them off coverage, force the defense to communicate and distribute patterns. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that so that some of these big alpha corners can't play as physical as they would like to and get hands on at the line of scrimmage. Garrett Wilson, of course, the top target here. Justin Fields, Wilson, those guys go back to Ohio State in 2020. They had a lot of success together that season, so there's a good chemistry connection there. For my money, I think Garrett Wilson, one of the more underrated receivers in football. He's had some tough quarterback play throughout his career, and he's still been really productive. I think he's been a 1,000-yard receiver every single year. Let me double check that on Garrett Wilson, but he has been consistently productive despite some tough times overall. 1,000 yards each of his 3 NFL seasons, 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think he was tied for 4th in targets last year with 154. Should get the ball a ton given the connection with Fields. But there's other guys too, Lazard and Josh Reynolds, the rookie Mason Taylor. So there's other guys to worry about, but Wilson's the number one guy. I think Ramsey will take him in those big gotta-have-it, obvious pass situation moments. I don't think he'll shadow him, though, wire to wire in this game.
All right. Just keep him under 60 yards and out of the end zone, and you've done your job there.
The other thing to talk about is this Jets offensive line. So much I've talked about with the Steelers offensive line versus the Jets' strong front. The Jets are kind of in a similar situation. There's high draft capital. There's some youth and some talent, the potential there, especially a tackle, but a lot of guys who have plenty to prove. Fashanu in his first year, full-time left tackle. Membu at right tackle. Here's TJ Watt in your first NFL game. Good luck to you there. The offensive line injury to Vera Tucker got some. I think Tippmann was a 2nd-round pick. I'm not sure where Myers was. I think he was maybe a 3rd or 4th-round selection.
He was undrafted, I think, wasn't he?
Was he undrafted? Okay. I mean, I'm maybe getting mixed up with somebody else, but Tippmann was a 2nd-round pick in 2023. So there's some similarities between, I think, the Jets offensive line and what the Steelers have going on.
And look, you've got John Simpson versus a lot of Cam Hayward in this game, and those two know each other fairly well, right?
Yeah, that's a matchup that Hayward needs to win, and you would expect him to win.
Right. And then Fashanu, 2024 draft pick. Look, there's no way getting around it. We made sure to ask Zach Blatt about Rosenblat about this as well too. You know, the Vera Tucker injury just brutal for them overall, especially with them playing next to a rookie and all. Then with Tippmann, I know Tippmann does have snaps at guard throughout his career, but he's not overly established. And you go into game week here thinking this is going to be one way, and then now you got to change on the fly. So it will be interesting to see the right side of that Jets offensive line and how they handle Watt and whoever's going to get the snaps over there opposite Cam Hayward.
I'll just go back to what I mentioned earlier, Patrick Queen, even Peyton Wilson. Can those guys fit the run and make plays downhill? It's going to be a physical trench type of game, and those guys are known for their athleticism. They're going to have to be known more for their physicality and downhill ability. I think they can do it. I think Wilson has certainly made strides, but getting up of blocks and being big and physical will be really key for those two guys.
Just make Justin Fields convert a lot of 3rd and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards in this game, and don't let him beat you with his legs.
Yep, there you go. Flipping over to the Jets' defense in this one, the front 7 is strong and stout, I think, overall. Will McDonald, Quinnen Williams, there's some underrated linebackers. The secondary has some changes, but Sauce Gardner remains. Dave, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of sauce on DK in this one. And I think Brian Baldinger had some clips up on his Twitter about I think the last matchup those two had against each other. Look, the Steelers are going to come out and run the game, but they've got a good front there in Quinnen Williams and Harrison Phillips and obviously Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson on the edges. The Steelers got to get to the second. We got to start seeing the pedigree of this offensive line, plain and simple. That's the theme to this whole offense this year and the potential success that they're going to have there. They're going to have to handle fronts like this, not only in the running game, but in pass protection as well, too. I have DK Metcalf. I'm not sure if I'm going to start him in this one because if defensively, I let Sauce travel, like I said, with DK wherever he has to go. I think a key component on this is Aaron Rodgers using the tight ends in the passing game against linebackers, safeties, whoever draws the coverage on that. And there are aspects of the secondary not named Sauce Gardner that I think you can attack. Calvin Austin not on the injury report. Going to obviously see time in this game, but we're going to see by committee committee aspect here. We're going to see our first big action snap action of Roman Wilson as well. You expect him to play a key part in this game. So it's all about spreading the football around in the passing game for Aaron Rodgers, not having him not I don't want to see this offensive line tested of how long they can hold up in protection. I expect the ball to come out fairly quickly in this one. As you've stated several times, slants should be an element of this. It'll be interesting to see in the screen game. Can we actually see a screen game out of the chute work for the Steelers to kind of maybe slow down some of that pass rush? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to take some shots in this game, but it's going to be who wins the small ball aspect of this game. The most times overall in this one, but key component. Excited to see Zach Frazier start his second year. Look, I think Zach Frazier has a potential to be Pro Bowl, potential All Pro for the first time this year. But the totality of this offensive line as a whole is one of the bigger question marks going into this season, and they're going to have to set the tone early on here.
Yeah, well said. The Jets will be well coached. Just watching some of their tape, they were disciplined. They're stout at the point of attack. They can vary between two gapping and one gapping. Safeties will come down, support, and fit the run. So just overall, this Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilks, those two really quality defensive minds. Dave Glenn and Steve Wilks on the same coaching staff. That's really going to boost that Jets defense this year. But the secondary is what I'm watching, because you have Sauce Gardner, and I agree. I think he's going to travel on Metcalf for most, if not the entire game. He's in the past, under previous regimes, Robert Saleh was more of a side guy. He played more one side than the other, didn't travel a ton. I'm pretty sure that's going to change for this game or for the season, but at least for this matchup. But the other ones, they lost DJ Reed, who's a quality corner, who went to Detroit. Brendan Eccles is now in Pittsburgh. They signed Brandon Stevens, a good money contract, but I didn't think Stevens had particularly good tape in Baltimore last season. So Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson on those guys. Michael Carter, the slot corner over there with the Jets. Can those guys make plays? Can those guys win one-on-one? Because Rodgers may have to do more than just pepper Metcalf with targets if Gardner's locking him up. Not locking him up, but certainly having some good battles throughout the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well put.
What is the number one matchup you're watching in this game? The best one-on-one matchup that might tell you who's going to win that side of the ball?
You mean from the Steelers' offensive side?
Yeah, the Steelers offense versus the Jets defense. Is there any individual one-on-one matchup that you're looking at above all else?
Yeah, I think Zach Frazier on Quinnen Williams is
that's
one.
That's where I was going to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one that you got to look at in this one.
100%. And Frazier, I've said it before, I think Frazier's a very good player. No question about that. Had a really strong rookie year. I'm excited for him. But to be a great player, you got to be able to handle some of these great players. And Williams may not quite be in that upper echelon of great player, but he's an ascending guy with 3 Pro Bowls his last 3 seasons and a ton of sacks over that span. And so for Frazier to be in that camp to really deserve all-pro status, you got to go up there and defend the best. And he certainly can. But this will be a great test for him. And of course, you could say Broderick Jones and Will McDonald and just the overall, pass protection versus the rush of the Jets. That's going to be so critical in this game.
Agreed.
All right, Dave, any other thoughts here for this offense or for the Steelers offense against the Jets defense? My other thought, just for this game and all the others, first down success. Pittsburgh, the worst first down team in the NFL last season in terms of yards per play. They've been near the bottom or at the bottom for several seasons. That is a number I'm certainly looking to change.
I agreed on that. Look, can this team produce explosive plays? We all and one of the good things with Aaron Rodgers throughout his career is the touchdown to interception ratio, and just not turning the football over. And we're going to be going into a lot of games this year, especially some of the tougher ones the Steelers have on the schedule. Is can you have a better version of the rock fights? I'm less concerned about the Steelers defense as a whole. I think this defense has the ability to be an even better defense against the pass and the run than they were last year. Just the elements of the offense and the things that I think Zach put it kind of best. How is this a good mesh or not between Aaron Rodgers and what Arthur Smith likes to do? It kind of feels like with the bringing in of Jonnu Smith and going out and get a big receiver like DK Metcalf, is that he's trying to and disagree with me, obviously, if you think, but it feels like you're bringing in the personnel to match the system instead of the system to the personnel. You see where I'm going there?
So you're saying they're bringing in people that aren't matching. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I just want to run it
that
back.
they're bringing in people that best. They're trying to go back in the Wayback Machine, to the Tennessee days. We need these. I need this kind of person to match my system. And in other words, is Arthur Smith a guy that needs certain type of players to fit his system instead of being the offensive coordinator that can match a system to whatever kind of players that he has?
Well, it's a little chicken and egg, but I think
Right.
whenever you build your roster in the offseason, you do things that reflect your system and scheme.
Sure.
And injuries will dictate that. You may have to adjust more towards the players in the season. If you're taking over and you didn't make a lot of changes, then you may have to fit the personnel a bit more. But I have no problem with the guys they brought in to fit Arthur Smith's scheme, because that's whenever you get an offense at its best, when you have a good scheme and players who fit that scheme, and those things work hand in hand.
All right. I mean, and can they run the football?
Sure.
Right.
In short yardage, especially, but I mean, obviously every down, because it's going to be so, integral to this offense, to every Arthur Smith offense. You have to be able to run the football, and Rodgers cannot carry the load, the way that he has in his prime. It's just not going to be successful. Look at last year with New York, but first down and short yardage, can you run the ball? Because Pittsburgh has been pretty abysmal at both, at least last year.
With all the talk about them running the football and needing to run the football, do they open this game up trying to throw it? Or are we going to just see an inside zone?
I don't know the first play call, but, they threw it in the preseason more, and I think that was just kind of getting a look at stuff against some of those defensive starters that were playing in Jacksonville and Tampa Bay. But, you don't know. And Rodgers will have certainly some autonomy to make some checks and get this team hopefully in the right positions.
I tell you, one of the things that I can't get out of my mind last year when watching some of that Jets tape and all was the kind of hits that Aaron Rodgers took that I thought, just stay down. I mean, yeah. Obviously quarterbacks have got to be able to get hit, and will get hit as the season goes on. But I mean, every year he gets older, those hits, and he's taken quite a few of them, take their toll and all like that. He can't take. It just feels like he can't take in many more of those kind of hits that he took last season with the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's in good shape for a 41-year-old quarterback, but it doesn't get much easier if Quinn Williams is cleaning your clock all game.
Right.
All right, Dave, any other final thoughts for this on special teams? The Jets they lost some games last year because of their kicking. Zierlein was really struggling late in those games last year, so they got a new but old kicker, Nick Folk, returning for his second stint in New York, and so that may be a difference maker. And so I'm sure the Jets are thinking they're in a better position to hopefully win some close games or make sure they come away with 3 points that they did not always get last year.
I'll certainly give the edge to the Steelers in the kicker department here with Boswell. And boy, just looking, understanding some of the rules that they talked about on Thursday Night Football with the kicker balls and all like that. And we already saw during the preseason are we going to see a 70-yard field goal this year in the NFL?
Would not shock me if we did.
I tell you, these kickers seem to do they need to think about decreasing the width of the goalposts?
I think the NFL likes points, and so they're good with points happening as early and often as possible.
All right. I guess they're going to have Xavier Gibson returning punts for them, right?
I believe so. I'll have to check the Josh Carney part of the report, but
all right.
Yeah, I think they have a new punter too in McNamara, replacing Morstead. So some new specialists over there in New York, but probably for the better.
All right. I expect Danny Smith to have this group ready to go on that side.
Yeah, kick coverage, or you'll see a lot of kick returns in this one. Ball comes out to the 35 on a touchback. You don't want to just give the offense stats. You're going to force the return. You got to be, sound with your lane integrity and tackle well and be smart. Don't get any dumb penalties. So all things to watch. Don't spit in anybody's face after a
Good
kickoff.
point.
And remember, the NFL is cracking down on the unsportsmanlike conduct. That was a policy that came out before this Thursday night game. It was a couple weeks ago. The NFL had the big announcement, we're cracking down on taunting, unsportsmanlike penalties. And usually what happens is they come out really extreme early on to kind of send that message, and then they back off during the season. So it was even, I think, that one taunting call of a dude just standing over somebody last night, and he got flagged for it. So, don't do anything that would even suggest to the ref about taunting or a penalty, because they're really going to be throwing those flags pretty early and often in this week one and probably throughout the month of September.
And hopefully Jalen Ramsey got that one penalty out of his system during the pre. You can't help but get excited about his first game in a Steelers uniform, right?
Oh yeah, I'm excited what he can offer in coverage from the nickel spot on the outside, blitzing ability, fitting the run, just being an alpha, but being a really good slot corner in a lot of ways. Pittsburgh has not had since Mike Hilton, and Ramsey, of course, is better than even Mike Hilton in the slot.
Look, Peyton Wilson, really excited to see him. Second year, Jalen Ramsey goes without saying. I've drank plenty of the YA Black Kool-Aid this offseason as well too. So excited to track his steps throughout this game. But all right, where to from here?
Oh, I think we're about to make our picks, but one quick thing I keep forgetting to mention, YA Black and a new number, by the way. He's now wearing 94, which was his college number at Iowa, switching from 78 that he wore in Pittsburgh this summer, now that it's open after Dean Lowry's injury. So if you see a 94 out there, sorry, he's hard to miss. You'll know who he is, but that is YA Black.
Big sexy, right?
That's what Terrell Austin called him. That's what they called you and I, Dave, right?
No.
They don't call us that.
No,
all right, Dave. Before we make our picks for week one, let's hear from some old friends. MyBookie is back as a Friday sponsor before our week one picks. We're excited about that. So, Dave, tell us about MyBookie, make our picks for week one, and we'll finish that off with the Steelers game.
Yeah, absolutely. So glad to have, after a 1-year hiatus, to have MyBookie back sponsoring the Friday shows on the Terrible Podcast. I've used MyBookie for years. They're a great betting site to use. Look, if you're waiting for Sunday to start betting, you're missing half the fun and half the money. College football is already cooking with the upsets, the blowouts, the wild covers, and MyBookie lets you hit it all. Game lines, player props, and more. Everything you need before the pros even kick off. When Sunday rolls around, you're already up. MyBookie's got it all under one roof for you. Win big on the NFL Super Contest that they have and the Survivor pools that they have as well too. And if you're new to MyBookie, use our promo code. You know what it is. Terrible. Promo code Terrible. And any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. Make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your Bet Back bonus token that you get at sign up. MyBookie's where bettors win together, because bragging's good, but cashing in is always better. And if you're at the game and you just have a gut feeling, no problem. Now you can bet from anywhere, anytime with the all-new MyBookie mobile betting platform. With the MyBookie mobile platform, you'll enjoy the safety and convenience of at-home betting when you're on the go. Try it out today and you'll never miss another winning bet with MyBookie. So once again, if you're new, go there, use promo code Terrible, and you claim your 100% bet back bonus on your first deposit up to $500.
All right, Dave, let's make our picks for week one. We both start the year 1-0. We both picked Dallas last night, so happy about that, even though they did not get the win. They covered. Let's hopefully think we were just as successful with the rest of our picks, Dave.
Yeah, you become quite the shark in this against me the last couple of years, beating me. I'm going to have to change that this year. We both are 1-0 after having the Cowboys +8 last night. All right, Alex, later on tonight, we have the Kansas City Chiefs in Brazil against the Chargers. The Chiefs open up the 2025 season 3-point favorites over the Chargers. What say you?
Give me the Chiefs.
Give me the Chiefs as well too. Najee Harris is expected to start and play in this game after that offseason firework superficial eye injury there. But give me the Chiefs late of 3. All right, the Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are 1-point favorites in this one against the Dolphins. The Colts are the home team.
A tough one here to start. I'll go with the Colts. I think Miami's just going to be a mess this year. I think McDaniel might be the first coach to get fired.
All right. I think, it's going to be a rough season, I think, for both these teams here. But give me Miami to win on the road, so I'll take the +1 there. How about the Washington Commanders hosting the New York Jets? The Commanders, they've got Terry McLaurin in the fold now. Commanders laying 6 at home against the G-Men and Russell Wilson.
I think having Russ is going to raise the floor of the Giants, similar to how Geno Smith will raise the floor and Pete Carroll over there with the Raiders. I'm still going to go with the Commanders, though.
I will, too. And Jackson Dart, I think, starts the season as the backup there to Russell Wilson. Going to be interesting to see how long it takes for them to pull the plug on Wilson to get to Dart. But I'll take the Commanders laying 6 in this one. The Atlanta Falcons hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers road favorites by 1.5 points in this one.
Yeah, I think Atlanta, again, a team that can be in the mix, be competitive. Tampa Bay has won the South 4 straight years. I'll go Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is well coached. Baker, a lot of good weapons there on offense. I think their defense will be good enough. I think Tampa Bay is going to win a lot of games, and I think they win their first one against the Falcons. I'll lay the 1.5 points there. How about the Saints hosting the Arizona Cardinals? The Cardinals laying 6.5 on the road.
It's a big line there, but probably well reasoned with the Saints and their issues. Give me the Cardinals.
Yeah, that quarterback situation there when it comes to the Saints, man, just it makes you kind of wonder about them overall. I'm not very bullish on the Cardinals this year, but I do think they'll win this one and probably quite easily. I'll lay the 6.5 points on the road for the Cardinals there. How about an AFC North matchup right out of the chute? Should every you saw Eagles versus Cowboys last night. Should it be mandatory that every NFL team opens up in division and closes the season in division?
100%. I've had this thought for a couple of years. It's how the NFL season should start and should end to maximize those first and last games. That, to me, is a no-brainer.
I think that as well, too. You want to see that bad blood right out of chute. You want some super meaningful games. I would like to see the NFL do that where every team plays in division, but that's not the case. But we do have that with Browns-Bengals. Browns hosting the Bengals laying 5 points on the road.
The Bengals have struggled in week 1. They've struggled with Cleveland in the past. Does it change this year? I say this is finally the year it changes. Give me the Bengals.
Myles Garrett, I think, showed up on their injury report or something yesterday with a hip or something like that.
He's going to play. No,
he's going to play, but I mean, it's just noteworthy. All that said, I'm taking the Bengals on the road to blow out the Browns. I'll lay the 5 points. How about the Jaguars at home hosting the Panthers? The Jaguars are 3.5 point home favorites.
Give me the Panthers. I think a little optimism over there in Carolina with what Canales has done. Bryce Young, the way he ended the season. I know Jacksonville's a popular AFC sleeper. They may win this game, but week 1 can be weird. Give me the Panthers.
All right, I'll take the Jaguars. I think they cover that 3.5 points at home against the Panthers. New England Patriots at home with Vrabel as their head coach against the Las Vegas Raiders. Patriots laying 2.5 against the Raiders team where they got a wide receiver that just has got a job to do, I think.
And Jacoby Myers, you're referencing?
Yeah.
And there's still trade requests, contract requests, neither happening there. Yeah, this will be a fun matchup. I think both teams will be better than last year. I think they have stability with head coach. Raising the floor is kind of how I define some of these teams. So, interesting matchup here. Give me the Patriots as the home team, not having to make that cross-country trip.
Yeah, I think Vrabel will have these guys ready to go right out of chute. I'll take the Patriots, lay the 2.5 points. How about the Denver Broncos hosting the Tennessee Titans? Got the rookie quarterback over there for the Titans making his first NFL start, obviously, in Ward. Broncos are expecting, with their second-year quarterback, to have a strong season. They open up the chute with a 9-point spread. 9 points at home versus the Titans.
It's a really big line there. I'm really bullish on Denver this year, Dave. Still, that's 9 points, and Cam Ward has not gotten really any respect. I'll go Tennessee to cover.
Oh, boy, they're going to confuse that young kid. He's going to have some growing pains. Denver blows them out. I'll lay the 9 points without issue here. Seattle Seahawks at home versus the 49ers. And I think McCaffrey showed up with everybody's watching that Friday injury report with Christian McCaffrey there. All that said, 49ers are 2-point road favorites against the Seahawks.
I'm really bullish on the Niners, as people will hear from some predictions we'll have coming up soon. So give me the Niners.
I'll take the Niners, lay those 2 points on the road. Rams hosting the Texans. The Rams are 3-point home favorites against Houston. A lot of people kind of wondering if Houston can be that team this year or not.
Yeah, I think they'll bounce back. I'll take Houston.
I'll take the Rams at home, laying the 3 points there on that one. Not very confidently. How about the Packers and the Lions? Talk about divisional games right out of the chute here. The Packers hosting the Lions, and the Packers, a lot of people have them winning it all this year, laying 2 points at home against Dan Campbell's bunch.
Yeah, it's just a really good matchup here. Where do I want to go? I'll take Green Bay.
Yeah, I'll take Green Bay lay to 2 points. I think Green Bay is going to have a really solid season here. I like their wide receiver group for sure. I like the ability to run the ball. I think Jordan Love is going to have a great year. Buffalo Bills Sunday night hosting the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens 1-point road favorites against Josh Allen and company.
I'm going to take Baltimore at secondary with that offense. Just really play well off each other.
All right, I want the Bills in this one. I think this will be a very good game Sunday night out of the chute. I think the Bills get a late field goal. I'll take the +1 with the Bills on that. And closing it on out for the rest of the schedule, the Bears hosting the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. The Vikings 1.5-point favorites with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback.
I like what Chicago's done. Retooled the roster. Ben Johnson as the OC. Give me Chicago.
I'll take Chicago as well, too. Going to be interesting to see the type of season. And look, the Steelers will face Minnesota in Week 4 in Ireland. So interested to start learning more about McCarthy at quarterback. But I think the Bears win this outright. I'll take the +1.5 points there along with you there. All right, that brings us back to our first prediction of the season for the Steelers. Alex, the Jets hosting the Steelers at 1 o'clock on Sunday at MetLife Stadium. The Steelers 3-point road favorites this week. What say you?
I should clarify, Johnson is the head coach, obviously, in Chicago, but the OC play caller. You guys know what I mean there. So, yeah, Dave, we made it. Finally, a week 1 prediction. I wasn't sure where I was going to go early in the week. I think the Jets have some talent. I like the coaching staff there. The culture that Aaron Glenn's instilling is what the Jets have been missing, I think, for a long, long time. Probably haven't had that since Rex Ryan. I just look at the Steelers, though, and say that defense, they're going to be able to play the run well enough. You have these corners that can take away Garrett Wilson. You're going to put some more pressure on Justin Fields to throw to his other pieces, and it just does not seem like a winning formula. And not that it means a whole lot, but Aaron Rodgers, I know, is going to be so motivated for this game. Even though he's not showing it, he's Aaron Rodgers. Of course, he's motivated and fueled by it, and good on him. He should be. That's fine. Athletes can, glean motivation any which way. There's going to be some challenges in this game, no question. The Steelers' offensive line and how well they can do. I think Pittsburgh, their pass rush and trying to be able to play confidently while still rushing smart is a tough line to walk. But overall, that defense, too many answers for the Jets to be able to handle and counter. I got Pittsburgh winning this one, 23-17.
All right, I'm close to you on that. There's not much to add the way you kind of set this one up there. I expect the defense to probably get off to a little bit rocky start, maybe handling Fields, but settle in as the game goes on there. Going to be a lot of running early on. I think they can sack Fields and maybe even force a turnover or two in this game. I think I hope Rodgers comes out, doesn't turn the football at all. I think it'll be slow sledding for both teams early on in the first half, and then I think the Steelers will maybe get a key turnover or two to help put some points up on the board in here. I am hoping for, because I want the stats are weird, I want an opening drive. I still like the possibility of that happening in this one. Aaron Rodgers marches the team down the field. What did I see? 75 yards. Yeah, 10, 12 plays, ending it with Freiermuth there, and then maybe the offense goes a little stagnant after that. Long story short here, I expect the Steelers to win this one. I expect them to win the turnover war. I expect them to win the Tox stat by +2 in this one. All the things that you need to do to win football games, they'll get it done. Like I said, close to yours here, 23-19.
19. You love the weird scores.
Yeah,
Dave.
Yeah. So
how are the Jets getting 19?
I don't
Missed
know.
Extra point, a safety.
Yeah, something like that here. But 23-19. The Steelers just do barely cover in this one here, but I like the Steelers to get off to a 1-0 start on the road.
Let's do this each week too. Let's give one scenario in which the number one reason why Pittsburgh would win this game, number one reason why they would lose this game. So if I told you, Dave, what is the number one reason why Pittsburgh won this game, what would that reason be?
Key takeaway or two in this game. I just think that they have the ability to maybe confuse or hit Justin Fields and force a key turnover or two to put the offense in the Steelers offense in a good position for probably I'm not expecting obviously a lot of touchdowns in this game, but to play a big component. So I just think Justin Fields turning the football over to the Steelers defense it will be a key component in the win.
Which he's done a lot in his career. Better in Pittsburgh, fewer turnovers last year, but he is literally the most sacked quarterback of this modern era in terms of sack percentage. It's over 11%, and you just don't see that in this day and age. Now, there's a variety of reasons for that, but he has been sacked a ton and was still sacked a decent amount with the Steelers last season. His mobility can cut both ways. It can be an asset, but also can get him into trouble. I'll say, similar to with the Steelers defense, just having too many answers to take away the run, to take away Garrett Wilson, to leave the Jets without much to do offensively is a big reason why Pittsburgh would win this game. On the other side, if the Steelers lost this game, will be the number one reason why they lost it.
Inability to run the football to some degree of success and making Aaron Rodgers have to drop back and throw, 30, 34, 35, 36 times in this game just does not see conducive to Aaron Rodgers going turnover free and sack free and hit free and all those things. So I just really think the key component of this is getting that running game going, or inability to get the running game going where they're having to lean on a lot of dropbacks in this game.
Fair. That's a solid point. I will say if they lose this game, it's because the Jets had too much of that unknown of the rookie head coach, rookie team overall, new pieces. How does Fields get used differently than Pittsburgh last year? There'll be similarities, but there will be differences as well. And Pittsburgh just unable to counterpunch effectively against some of the new the Jets, I'm sure, will present.
They talked about, like Aaron Rodgers talked about the unscoutable stuff, right?
Right, those unknown unknowns or those known unknowns or whatever, however you want to couch it, that could be a challenge. Pittsburgh, like I said in a previous show, has not been great against some of these rookie head coaches. All right, Dave, let's talk about big picture for the season. I know Ross McCorkle had a Depot stat projection post earlier this week, so some may have already seen our thoughts on the year. But Dave, you go ahead. Give me your Steelers record. Did they make the playoffs? How far do they go if they make the playoffs? Give me your overall expectations and predictions for 2025 in Pittsburgh.
All right. Last year I got off of my 10-7 string and went, I think, 9-8 for this team. Obviously, because of a lot of questions at the quarterback position and wide receiver room, and offense. Some of the same things that we're talking about, other than maybe more so the quarterback position, because I feel a little bit more confident in their quarterback position overall. But look, I think this is a team that I like the way the schedule sets up with them. I would not be totally shocked if this team opened up 4-0 in their first 4 games. At its core, though, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they drop at least one of these in their first 4 and go 3-1. I think the Minnesota game in Ireland as the flat game, as the one that they lose in the first 4 there. And then as you learn more about these the teams on the Steelers' opponent as the season goes on here, it doesn't. There's big games, obviously. The Packers game, that's a Sunday night game, right?
Yes.
Against the Packers. That obviously is a daunting game. How are they going to play against the Chargers this year? Obviously, you got 4 really, really big games in division against the Bengals and the Ravens. You've got the Bills in the second half of the season after Thanksgiving, and then it looks less daunting at the time, but the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football looks less daunting, but then Detroit later on in the season should be a good test as well too. I really wanted to go 11-6 on the season, but the questions that I have about the offensive line and the protection and Kendall and the depth of the offensive line, the fact that this team really has a bullpen by committee, if you will, for the number 2 Will they be able to run the football and all like that? Force me to have them losing one extra rock fight, I think, in this one. So I have this team going 10-7 this year, but unequivocally, I just don't understand the 8.5 win total on this. Much like every season, just Mike Tomlin has a way to coach these guys up, no matter what the situation is, to at least have a winning season. I know that should not be the goal of this team, but I do have them going 10-7. I have them tied with the Bengals 10-7, but winning tiebreakers and getting the number 2 spot in the AFC North. Obviously, I have them making the playoffs. I have them going 4-2 in the division.
All right, so 10-7, making playoffs, second spot in the AFC North. The big question is, and it's the ultimate question that really just defines the Steelers anymore, as it should be, at least to start, do they win a playoff game?
I have them. I don't want to have to talk about them, A, not making the playoffs, and B, making the playoffs and, once again, not winning a game. I think the perfect scenario is them getting into the playoffs, potentially as a wild card team, and playing whoever maybe wins the AFC South there. And in my scenario, I have them going on the road and playing the Texans and winning their first playoff game since 2016.
Okay, so finally able to break that drought, you think, this year? And how confident are you in that prediction, or is it a little more optimism and hope than it is real, true and blue? They're going to do it.
I just think it's more fandom, optimism, hope than it is confidence. Because look, if their first playoff game is against like the Ravens or the Chiefs or the Bills or even the Ravens or Bengals, you lose. I think it's got to be, hopefully it's the right situation where they are. I don't think it's a bad thing overall for them to make the playoffs as a wild card and then have to go on the road against whatever AFC South team, division winner there is. But there is a little optimism, and there's a part of me that just really, I mean, that all that they've done this offseason, and look, they've spent more. They should be expected to win a playoff game or two this year. Look at the money. Look at the cash that they spent this year. Look at the way they've done things differently this offseason. You go out and get a veteran quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. You go out and you trade for DK Metcalf. You just cut the cord on George Pickens. You make the kind of deal. You send off Minkah Fitzpatrick. You get in Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. You've got all this pedigree that you've lined up on the offensive line. You did what you were supposed to do in spending the draft picks on the defensive line. You've got second-year players expected to make the next jump. All of that saying you should basically, I guess what I said, you should expect this team to win more than one playoff game. I think if you're being realistic here, but you absolutely all that you've done this offseason and all that you have done the last two drafts and everything, you should be expected to win a playoff game, at least one.
Yeah, that's reasonable for the standard of the franchise and for all the change of the offseason. So I'm holding your hand in a lot of ways here, Dave. Went back and forth on it, and my season predictions, I don't spend a lot of time on it because who knows how the season goes. But I'm with you, 10-7, but with a playoff win. You've gotten so much change, radical change. Hopefully, get you maybe not radically different results, but a different result ultimately in the one that matters the most in terms of getting over that hump, winning a playoff game. You don't hang a banner for it. I'm not trying to lower the standard and celebrate winning a playoff game, but it is the elephant in the room. If you want to go win a Super Bowl, it starts with a wild card game, starts with a playoff game and a win. And I think Pittsburgh gets that this year. The offensive line will hopefully be better. You have better quarterback play, a defense that does look really strong and stout across the board. A team that will have more answers this year, is more true to their identity and philosophy of what Arthur Smith wants to do. And they just have a will and a way to kind of win some of these tight games. And so all that combined, same regular season record, but a different playoff record, which you'll take every day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, look, once again, the standard is not raising. Hey, we had another winning season, and we kicked down the playoff win door. Should that be look? You ask Omar Khan this, he's going to tell you we built this team that we think can win a championship.
Sure.
Can this team win more than one playoff game?
Can they? Yes, if it all goes right. Do I expect that? I'm very pessimistic that's going to happen. I am not predicting that. I believe they will lose in the divisional round.
I mean, and I have that as well too, and I think I have them losing to the Bills, who I have winning it all this year. I'm kind of burying the lead there, but look, the offensive line has got to take more than just a step forward. They got to take like 2 steps forward, I think, especially at the tackle position if they're going to make a run. Aaron Rodgers obviously has to stay healthy. They're going to have to be able to run the football, and then once they get into the tournament, they're going to have their defense probably win more than just a couple of games for them. But that's the scenario that I think. Do I think this team can win more than one playoff game? Yes. I'm not optimistic that they will, but I do think that if certain things, if we see if we get the questions that we have had about this team all offseason answered in a positive direction, then yeah, I think they can.
Right. It's possible, but I'm really not expecting that. Even if the team internally is, the quarterback play just is not going to be elite enough to go win some of those really gaudy matchups, 1 or 2 times, depending on who they face in the postseason. So, Dave, you already mentioned it, but for your Super Bowl prediction this year, who you have from each conference and who hoist the Lombardi by season's end?
Yeah, I think, and look, it's going to be good to see the Bills play the Ravens right out of shoot, because those are 2 teams that a lot of people, I think, could have finally keep the Chiefs out of a Super Bowl there. I have the Bills winning the AFC by beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I really like what the Packers are doing, and especially now that they have Micah Parsons over there on defense. I think they are built to have season success and playoff success as well too, especially if they can get teams to come to Lambeau Field in the playoffs there. Ultimately, though, in the Super Bowl out in San Francisco, Santa Clara, I have the Bills beating the Packers in the Super Bowl.
All right. So there you go. My prediction, which was very hastily made, and it's as likely to come true as anybody's, because who the heck knows how the season will go. I got Baltimore in the AFC. So speaking of getting over the hump, I know Baltimore struggled to get over that AFC title game hump. I think it finally happens this year. The secondary looks excellent across the board. Now, you assume Jair Alexander can stay healthy, which will be an adventure this year, but just overall, it's a good group. Offensively, it's still really strong. The maturation of their pass-catching weapons, Zay Flowers and Bateman, etc., the tight end tandem there, even though likely it's got the injury. So Baltimore in the AFC. In the NFC, a curveball in this one, the San Francisco 49ers make it to the Super Bowl. They were a Super Bowl contender before everyone got hurt last year. They returned to health. You get Robert Saleh back as that DC, which will help mitigate some of the defensive pieces up front that were lost this year. And this is pre-McCaffrey calf injury news, but it seems to be minor. Fingers crossed on that overall. So the talent is still there. They're still resembling the contending team they were of a couple seasons ago. The Eagles may take a step back. The Lions losing all their coaches and some key pieces. So I got the Ravens over the Niners.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you have the Steelers finishing second or third in the division?
I debated. I think the entire Depot crew picked second, and I did too. But I'm not locking that in as a layup. But do you have you want to read off your playoff teams in the AFC, Dave? I have mine too, but you can go first.
Yeah, I have the Bills as the number 1 seed. I have due to tiebreakers and beating Baltimore in week 1. So I have both those teams at 12-5. I have the Bills the number 1 seed. I have the Ravens number 2 seed. I have the Chiefs winning the West and being the number 3 seed. I have Houston winning the South and being the 4th seed. I have the Steelers finishing second in the AFC North with the 5th seed, the Bengals 6th with the identical 10-7 record, and I have the Broncos as the 7th seed as the last wild card team.
So your wild card teams, I'm sorry, were Pittsburgh, Denver, and who?
Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Denver.
I think we have the same playoff teams tonight. Baltimore, Houston, Kansas City, Buffalo, division winners, Denver, Steelers, Bengals. It feels too chalk. It feels too. There's always new teams that cycle in, but I just didn't know who else to pick. The Chargers. I do like the Chargers. I left them out. It's a tough decision there. I think Denver's on the rise, though. The Raiders.
So you have the same seven. Do you have the same 7 as I do? Then do you have the Bengals in or no?
I do. Bengals as a wildcard team, 3 from the north. So yeah, I'm with you overall.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. The Chargers. I don't know. Should I put the Chargers? I don't know who to replace though. That's the tough part. Yeah. But I'll just leave. I mean, I think Harbaugh is always done a good job. Always keeps his teams in the mix. See that second level, the second year, I should say, really taking them to another level. But anyway, I'll stick with it. It doesn't matter. NFC. Who are your 7?
In the NFC, I have 1 seed the Eagles, 2 seed the Packers, 3 seed the Buccaneers, 4 seed the 49ers, 5th seed the Lions, 6th seed the Washington Commanders, and 7th seed the Los Angeles Rams.
Okay. My division winners, Green Bay, San Francisco, which is consistent with my pick for the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay, Washington winning the East this year, and then wildcard teams, Eagles, Rams, and Bears. I'm on the Chicago train this year. There's going to be some team that comes out of not nowhere, but like the new roster, like the coaching staff. So give me Chicago.
So you have the Lions not making it then?
I don't. Yeah, I have and neither Minnesota. So the NFC North, which was so strong a year ago, takes some steps back in 2025.
All right. So I think the one difference that we have of playoff teams is I have Detroit and you don't.
Right. I have Chicago of all teams from the North. All right, Dave, any other final thoughts for the season? And I'm trying to get some questions to pepper you with, some predictions for the year. Aaron Rodgers, 25 touchdown passes, over, under, or push for Rodgers for the season?
I'm going to go under.
How under do you think
not very, will be? Like 24.
Yeah, I had 24 in my prediction. Oh, let's see. Jaylen Warren. What do I want to do with Jaylen Warren?
His over and under 600.5 yards.
Rushing. I was thinking about totals, and I'll kind of play off of that. 1,300 yards from scrimmage.
I don't think he'll have that. I'll take the under.
Yeah, well, that's probably too high. What's a more realistic?
I don't know. 900?
I think we'll have more. I think we'll beat 600 rushing yards. He's going to be the lead back, at least to start this season.
Yeah, I just wonder.
900 feels light.
Yeah, I'll take over 600 and a half rushing yards.
All right. Who has, I'm literally trying to think about these on the fly. More receptions, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith?
Freiermuth.
Okay. Who has more receptions?
Who do you have?
My prediction, I had Freiermuth as well.
Okay.
I think Jonnu Smith misses some time this year, but that's kind of one reason why I'm thinking that, even though injuries are impossible to predict. TJ Watt, how many sacks for TJ Watt this year?
17 and a half.
Okay, I think it's exactly what I had in my stat prediction too, so I'll hold your hand on that one. Jalen Ramsey, how many interceptions?
4, just like his average, I think.
Okay. Can't beat no career high for Ramsey.
No.
Sticking with 4. All right, fair enough. How many interceptions for the safeties in terms of Juan Thornhill and Deshaun Elliott combined? How many picks for those two guys?
4.
Oh, I'll take that for sure. I'll sign up all day. I think that might be a little high, but I'm with you. Man, how important is Juan Thornhill? I think he's one of those like boom bust guys. He's got some big games, makes some really frustrating plays. That's a guy that we don't talk about a whole lot, but big shoes to fill. Even though he's not going to be the every down guy, Ramsey will play safety and base, but Thornhill kind of a secret X factor.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're obviously going to see him out there. Some it's going to be interesting to see what if indeed the 3 cornerback main guys stay on the field, but obviously you worry about injury or whatnot. I think he'll be okay. Overall, I'm more excited, obviously, about Deshaun Elliott and the snaps that he's going to play on defense. Just don't give up the big home run.
Who has more receiving yards this year, Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson combined, or George Pickens?
Pickens.
Even with a 30 burger he put up in yesterday's game, not a great start for him.
Yeah, I think they'll figure it out.
What do I want to go with? I don't know. I'm asking the questions, I'm not answering the questions over here. Let's see. Anything else? How many times is Aaron Rodgers sacked this year?
It better damn sure be lower than 45. I'll tell you that. I'm going to go 38.
Okay. What is the most number of points the Steelers score in a game this year?
38.
11 to 38s. What is the least number of points Pittsburgh scores in a game this year?
16.
Really? You think that's a pretty high low mark?
Yeah.
I would say. I think it'll be lower than that. How many opening drive touchdowns does Pittsburgh have throughout this season?
2, because they're going to get 1 on Sunday.
And then only 1 after that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a tease. All right, that's fair. Say, give me at least 1. It seems so scraping bottom of the barrel, but at least 1 and break that streak. Chris Boswell, over under 35 field goals this year. At 41 last year.
Under, hopefully.
What's his longest field goal of the season? Does he hit one from 60 plus?
No, 58.
58. That's about his magnets. What is his career long? 59, 58? It's right around there.
Believe so, right? He hadn't hit one from 60, has he?
No, he's well. There was that one against Jacksonville, right? That got called back on that Samalu terrible penalty. His long is 59. That's officially counted true blue. How many takeaways does Pittsburgh's defense have this season?
What did we say it was last year?
I don't remember. Not interceptions, but total takeaways. It was tied. I think it was tied first in the NFL last year with Minnesota. But now the number is blanking on me.
Let me see if I got takeaways real quick for last year so I can go off regular season takeaways. They had 33 total takeaways. 35.
So they're taking more. Okay, I like it. Let's see. Any other question?
They're gonna need that defense to play well.
They do.
Obviously.
They do. Who has more sacks, Keanu Benton or Nick Herbig?
Herbig.
Yeah, I'll take Herbig. Who has more sacks, Benton or Harmon?
Harmon.
Oh, wow. How many sacks are you predicting for both? Let me just ask it point blank.
2 for Benton.
Oof. Hurts.
3 for Harmon.
Okay, so not great either there, but that's realistic for a guy like Benton who's only had 1 sack in each of his first 2 seasons. What is your boldest prediction of any sort for the Steelers in 2025? You always ask it on Twitter. What is your boldest prediction, Dave?
Boldest prediction. DK Metcalf under 900 yards receiving.
That's not a fun bold prediction, but fair enough. It is a bold prediction all the same. All right, Dave, I'm excited for the season.
What's your boldest one then?
I'm asking the questions over here, sir. Let me think. What is my boldest prediction? My stat predictions were kind of lame. I think the inside linebackers record a bunch of sacks this year. So Wilson and Queen get, 5+ sacks. I don't know how bold that is. It's bold for a very mild-mannered, careful Alex. So I'll say that the Queen, Wilson, those guys blitz a ton this year and get a lot of sacks. Kind of that Vince Williams feel from several seasons ago.
All right,
Dave. Excited for the season. Let's get to some emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's start with here from Dustin. Writes in, I hope you're both doing well. I'm sure both of you are just as excited as the season as I am. I have 2 questions. One, how are advertisements selected for the show? I was taken aback when I heard CD Lamb, Cowboys, times NFL, times Abercrombie and Fitch ad during the Wednesday show. We have no control over those. Those are injected based on demographics and all like that. So we have no control over that. 2, who are your picks to be breakout players on the team this year. He says, I'm sure Zach Frazier stands out, but what players further down the depth chart do you believe have the best chance to really make a name for themselves this year? That's a good question. And I think Zach Frazier, I think it's good to not include Zach Frazier because he sort of kind of, lived up to expectations. And I think the expectations are for him to kind of maybe be Pro Bowl, all pro type guy. But guys further down the depth chart, who do you think can be breakout? I think Peyton Wilson's kind of an easy one, but isn't that kind of a little bit of a slam dunk based on what we saw his rookie season, though? I mean,
well, it's not a slam dunk. You're breaking out. You're assuming he's more and better. There's no guarantee of that. I think it's one of the more popular selections, and I'm with you on that one.
All right, who else? How about on the offensive side of the ball?
I'm really optimistic and bullish on Fautanu from what I saw this preseason. And now that's not deeper down the depth chart, but that's a name. If you had to pick, backup breakouts are tougher to predict.
Right.
I think Kenneth Gainwell will make some plays though this year that people might not be expecting going into this season.
All right. What about someone not named Peyton Wilson on the defensive side of football?
It's hard to talk about a breakout. I mean, in terms of, I think Elliott will get more than the one interception he's kind of good for each year. Will Eccles make some plays? I don't know if that breakout's probably too strong for his career and what I expect him to do.
What kind of season is Joey Porter Jr. going to have?
I think you'll see a slight uptick in playmaking and a slight decrease in penalties. I think it'll be not a breakout, but some concrete steps forward.
I mean, definitely his best season to date. Which
I think
obviously not a lot to work with there, but
yeah, I think I'll go with you on that.
All right, Dustin, thanks for the email there. Let's go to Caleb Zaborski. With Caleb Johnson struggling in pass protection department, do you see that limiting the role on third down passing situations? Also, would you consider Corey Trice's injury problems with his talent equivalent to Sinquez Golson availability a while back? I don't think Sinquez, look, one of the reason they drafted Sinquez was all the takeaways, right? Way back in the day, and the ability to potentially play in the slot, and obviously he got hurt and never got on the field and all like that. With his talent equivalent, is Corey Trice has the ability to be a very talented player, but as Omar said, you can't trust it because he just can't stay on the field. I'm trying to think back. I mean, we just never saw Sinquez Goltz really in his Steelers uniform, right?
I mean, he never played a game. Right. Literally, not a preseason game, not a regular season game.
I mean, I don't know with his talent equivalent. I don't really know what to question it, but we've seen Corey. We've seen some good out of Corey, just not consistent enough of him.
Yeah, the difference is he's played and made some plays inside a stadium. He's also a 7th round pick, and so it's not the same feel of losing him as a 2nd round pick like Golson was.
All right, he talks about Caleb Johnson struggling in pass protection department. I don't know if it's so much because we didn't see a lot of quote unquote. I think it's just knowing what to do. We saw him fail to leak out while trying to chip and pass protect. I think it's just him learning and knowing and executing properly and playing fast is his biggest thing right out of the chute when it comes to, and not just on third down passing situations as well. I just think it's him, the team having confidence on him and knowing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, I think it's
more so than just saying struggling in pass protection. Because look, like I said, going back on the tape of his college, look, was he the best running back pass protector in college the last couple seasons? No, but I thought there was some effort there. I thought there was some good snaps in there. I just really think his understand and knowing who, the NFL is a lot different, or different, and all probably do more in the NFL and identifying some of that stuff as well too. I think it's just his understanding of on a down by down basis that's going to allow him to get on the field.
Yeah, I think it's all the above. The know-how and the actual execution of it is going to limit him, not just on third downs, but on all downs, because you can't put that red flashing light on the early downs and just say, okay, we're running the football right now, or Johnson's not pass protecting. So, yeah, I think it'll be a limiting factor early in the season. I think you'll see more Gainwell than you expect, and Moyne will get a heavy workload. Johnson will play, and we'll get some chances and touches, and we'll get the chance to earn that trust. But facing some of these defensive-minded coaches, I keep mentioning it the first month of the season, starting with Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes this weekend, that's a tough bunch. So I think it's going to be a limiting factor on Caleb Johnson.
All right. One more with Bryce, right? Saying I think more than ever this year we'll need Tomlin and Arthur Smith to really dig deep weekly to find right concepts and utilization of players for this offense. I don't believe the Steelers are good enough yet just to line up and say, stop us. They better have new wrinkles and ways to put Aaron Rodgers in the best possible plays, or this will ultimately be a long year, he writes. Here's my question, and it centers around that dreaded word for this team, motion. Alex, did you see this defense practicing on how to defend motion? Did this offense use it more in their practice sessions? He says the defense got killed last year when opposing offenses attacked them with motion. Were they working on fixing it?
It's hard to tell in training camp live. I mean, yes, I'm sure it was addressed, throughout the offseason, throughout OTAs, and throughout meeting rooms. And so how much do we see motion? Probably about the same as last year in terms of the offense, but it's not something I fully charted. So, the proof is in the pudding, as Dave would say. So I'm sure, yes, it's been worked on. A couple of coaching staff changes to maybe address some of those problem areas in the secondary and with the linebackers. But it just, you can work on it all you want against your own team, but it's a whole different, ball of wax whenever you're inside a stadium versus somebody else.
All right. I believe that's got all of them. We are on contract adjustment watch with Cam Hayward and Chris Boswell. I guess we're probably around the 24-hour mark now, right? Because won't they be leaving for New York in about 24 hours from now? Obviously, we're waiting to see what happens with Nick Herbig on the Friday injury report. We've got the scouting, the game scout offense defense post up already on the site on this Friday morning for people to start to read. Got a lot of great content throughout the weekend, pre-game, post-game, a lot of exciting stuff up on the site. We invite you to come by and see all that. And Alex and I will be back on Monday to hopefully recap a 1-0 Steelers team and tell you what we saw and discuss it from there. So, all right, Alex, with all that, they can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button and follow the directions that way. So, until Monday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.